Alright everybody, welcome back to the Bessemer Lake Erie and HO Scale. I'm Ray Brown. Been working on some random things. I think last time I posted, this was all wrapped up here on the North Bessemer end of the yard. But I did go ahead and build this Kibri roundhouse and reposition the tracks under it. This kit was a joy to put together. It really was. It is not a perfect dead ringer for the prototype, but it is pretty freaking close. And a couple people pointed out that, it's pretty short. You're not going to get very big power in there, but the pictures I have all look just about like that. With, doesn't even look like they could quite close the door. So I think from a layout perspective, the yard switchers will probably live here, and maybe a Pacific. But got a couple more of these to build. Really had a good time putting it together. Only took a couple evenings. Pretty happy with it. So big shout out on that kit. All right. So other than that, also got the last of my Scale Trains SD38s all converted over to TCS and wired up, all the headlights working and all the good stuff with the scale sound speakers in it. I'll probably never actually run them in a quad set like that. I just kind of have them sitting there for now. Probably going to actually take them off the layout for a little bit. They're out of era. But we'll definitely have some fun with them for sure, because I do have one train. So did take my Athearn SD38s. I just took the DCC cards out of those and put them in the scale sound engines. But then, I realized I had some non-sound decoders laying around, so I went ahead and put those in. So those three still run, they're just non-sound now. Just had them sitting over here because I had them running the layout for a couple days. It is still brutally cold here in northwest Pennsylvania, so it's been some good time for modeling weather. Continuing to build roundhouse hoppers, and something I've been playing with for a couple years now is a plan of how the heck I was going to weather them. So I think I got something I like here. So out of the gate, I take the trucks, hit them with the flat brown, do the rust on the wheels, and then I kind of dry brush the springs just to give it a little bit of, pop in the detail. And then I've been just painting the inside flat brown. I see a lot of people paint it black. That just doesn't look right to me. When you see overhead views of hopper cars, they're not black. So I got I forget the color now, but the color is it's a military wrought brown. I think it's by Mission Models. Now that I think about it, it's water based, sprays real nice through the airbrush, easy cleanup, and just about as fast as I could go, I got that effect, and I like it. It tones the plastic down and kind of gives it a dusty look. I hit the trucks, hit the trucks while I'm there, and I think that kind of ties the whole color together a little bit. And then I do the inside a little while I'm at it, and with that base of that, you know, flat brown, it doesn't take much, and I just feel like that ties that whole car together pretty nice. And you know, I'll go back and add some streaking and, you know, whatever, some brake dust, but just as a base level, I mean, I spent 2 minutes a car, and I think I just like how that looks. So we'll probably do some more of them that way. It was a nice win. All right, what else? Said we'd be moving on to the Allegheny Industrial District, and we have. So on my layout, targeting the transition era, the main line's still double tracked. The Allegheny Industrial District wasn't there yet, so this is a complete FOOB on my layout. But I wanted to do it for operations. You know, have a little bit of switching, and you know, something that, you know, people that are really into operating could sink their teeth into a little bit more, other than just, you know, running coal trains across the layout. But since it's a complete FOOB of the Allegheny Industrial District, I'm not trying to replicate it at all. I just thought I'd build some buildings and industries that I felt like building, and traffic that I would like to see on the layout, and we're just going to call it that. So I built the Water Street Freight House. That's a Walters kit. I feel like that's a rite of passage kit. I feel like everybody builds that kit. It's a good looking kit, so why not? Might call that Bennett Supply, just since that's still actually there today. And you can see I got the paper templates for switches in. We'll talk about that here in a second. I think this is going to be a machine shop, and I'm just going to put a little conveyor out the back to catch, you know, scrap metal. And I might label this as North Star Tool, which is where I did my apprenticeship, my tool making apprenticeship. Little shop, long out of business now, but the owner was a really great guy, and is a really great guy, and that was a lot of good memories working there. So might do that. When I have a little team track here where this boxcar's sitting, I think I got room for, you know, some road coming in. I got a little loading dock I want to build, and did this Pike Stuff kit. I did this green and white, which is Slippery Rock colors. I know a lot of people that are Slippery Rock alum, a lot of good friends, and think this is just going to be a place that maybe makes sporting gear or something. And I want to do this little oil, you know, delivery distribution place over here, because number one, I thought it would fit good in the space, and I wanted to have an excuse to have some tanker cars move around. So from a switching perspective, you can come off the main here and go up over there, and we'll talk about that in a second. We've got a little bit of room to run around over there, but we got this spur to work for oil delivery. We got a spur coming off here that goes into this factory. The track will go, you know, behind the building here. This way, if you keep coming up, will be that spur for the scrap metal shavings. Team track. We come across this way. We'll have this tiny little runaround, and it'll be just enough to get around one car. Convince myself that will work. We come up here, and we'll have the spur for the warehouse, and then kind of a, you know, facing point trapped move to put a car in front of that dock over there. I got to finish up yet. So that little runaround can serve that purpose. If you know, get a car in there, you can get around it to shove it back into there. And I like these little switching puzzles because that might mean that you got cars here that are in your way, You might have to set them off to the side for a second. So I think it's going to be a fun little switching area. I made it all a little bit tight switch-wise by design, so you can't come in here with a giant lash up of big power. It's just not going to work. This is meant to come over here with a single SD7 or 080 or whatever we feel like running into here. But road trains aren't just going to be poking around. All right, so coming off the switch this way. This is going to be the interchange for the Cheswick and Harmar. So at this point, the C&H was bringing up coal to the Bessemer main line. So the C&H main will kind of emerge from this wall, down this track and out that way. So we've got a runaround that'll work here, and that'll be your runaround to work the Allegheny Industrial District, or you'll have one spur, two spurs for coal and hoppers in and out. So starting to build those switches. You can see I got one switch built there, just doing the fast tracks thing as usual, and should be a nice little area to work. So one of the things I wanted to do in doing this, me personally, I love doing switching like this, people's layouts, but the fun starts to go away for me when I feel pressured. You're tying up the main line, or you're in the way for somebody else that has to come in there, and you feel like you got to work fast. That just starts being stressful for me, and the hobby shouldn't be stressful. So I designed this that once you come off the main here, you should be able to do everything you want to do in here without going back on the main. So once you're in, you're out of the way. Take all the time you want, and once you're all ready to go, the dispatcher can clear you up and head back to North Bessemer. And my feeling is that everything here is going to be a switch job from North Bessemer, including pulling the coal in and out of the C&H here. So even though the coal from here will go that way, north, I think empties will come across, get spotted in, we'll pull the loads, take the loads back into North Bessemer, because in real life it's very close. On the layout it's pretty close. So we'll take the loads back to North Bessemer to build them into a train, a road train going north. I just think that's going to be the fun way to run it. So pretty much that's what's been going on. That's where we're at. Built a bunch of buildings. Still got work to do on those buildings, but I wanted to at least get them partially built so I could lay them all in here and play around and figure out how I want it to go. And from a layout design standpoint, a layout this big, you're not just going to wing it. I spent probably a year just playing in CAD, just real simple 2D CAD, kind of laying out, radiuses for curves and, where walls would go, and making sure my aisle widths would come out good, and that everything would work, and I wouldn't get to a spot where I had to make a turn and, there was just no way to get the radius in there. So I planned it that far. And then after that, I just left spaces where I said, I know I'm going to build this switching area here. And I didn't plan it out beyond that. I spent a lot of my professional work, moving things around the computer and in CAD land and everything else. So it's nice to just kind of come out organically, print out the paper templates and, and move things around and see how it'll work in the real world. And this is, this was not the first thing I fell on. I probably, the first time I did it, I had this green building down here and both tracks going out, the same direction. And every time I did that, all the tracks ended up being on the back sides of the buildings, and I didn't like that because I thought from a running it perspective, it was going to be a pain to reach over stuff. And this way, there's really not much you have to reach over at all. And, you weren't going to be able to see anything. Like in a couple of the arrangements, this dock ended up being on the backside, and I think eventually I'd like to have some, guys with crates and stuff out, on the dock and make it look a little interesting. So it was fun to, sit here for a couple nights and just flip things around and see how it would work. And just a note on the paper templates, these are glued down. I glue them down real good, actually. I'd probably have to take the belt sander to get them off. But when I do this, kind of the same thing I did when I built, some of the yards. I get my laser out and I put my laser across here and, and sight everything. Just to get everything nice and straight and nice and aligned. So then as I come back and actually lay track number one, I know it's actually going to work. And I didn't, kid myself in, laying a template down, where you got a track or a switch that's kicked at a little bit of an angle. Everything will actually work. And then when you come in and build the switch, you can just lay it right on top of that paper template, and you don't really have to worry too much about making sure everything is aligned. You already did that work. Just put it right on top of the template, line it up good to the template, and it's good, as long as you took your time doing that. So switch control, that switch that's already there is powered. That's got a motor under it, and I do that anytime I end up with a crossover because I tie those two switches together. So if that switch is normal, let's say, then that switch is reversed, so you could go through, because every time I figure you got a pair of switches like that, like if that switch was reversed and you're coming into here, this switch better be lined for you to come through. And I can't imagine why you would ever throw one and not the other. So that switch is powered, but other than that, my general guideline on the layout is switches on the main are powered, everything else is manual. So all these are just going to be finger throws, and we'll just work it that way. So there it is, kind of see it from this way. Nice series of spurs. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to work. So I'm going to say it's somewhat fictitious. Is that the right way to say it? Yeah, I guess that's the right way to say it. So, I mean, obviously, we all know the Allegheny Industrial District is and was a thing, but it wasn't here yet in my era, and I am taking modeler's license to just do completely imaginary industries for the sake of model trains. Part of the way I look at this is, being accurate to the prototype is important, but I want to just be fun too. So there's you got to keep one leg in it's just a model, and we're playing toy trains in the basement. I think that makes it fun. All right, pretty much that's where we're at. I'm going to start building switches, get some track in here. That's going to take a while. There's a bunch of switches to build, and we'll keep rolling along, but hopefully we'll be rolling along pretty good, because I don't think this weather's letting up anytime soon. It is brutal out there. Hope everybody's staying warm, and we'll see you guys here next time on the HO Scale Bessemer Lake Erie.